a music teacher and someone who's been involved in the production, education, and audition side of children's musical theater, I have some opinions about Kim Kardashian's kid performing Simba at the Hollywood Bowl. Before I say anything else, I want to be clear, I do not blame North West. This child had nothing to do with this decision, and she may have been dragged through this process all the way through. We all know that this is her parents' fault, and it is the casting director's fault. Nepo babies and stunt casting is nothing new in the entertainment industry, but I think as far as musical theater goes, especially for children, we're talking about a different animal. Certain things need to be held to a higher standard for a few reasons. Her parents and that casting director threw her to the wolves without any training at all, and they knew that. They knew that this child had no vocal training, no stage training, no musical theater training, and they made the decision to put her on stage anyway. As far as the casting director goes, I have to say, how dare they make this decision, whether it was a stunt cast or not. That decision affected every other singer in that performance as well. When you're talking about ensemble casting, everyone has to be on point, which is why the audition process is so important in musical theater. It's not that we don't want people that already have name recognition on the stage, but when you put someone on stage that doesn't know what they're doing, can't keep a steady beat, can't sing in tune, that affects the entire ensemble. I wouldn't necessarily have so much of an issue with that if this ensemble were entirely adults. We're talking about something that had more than one child in the cast. If you have the lead singer going up there and singing garbage, it is going to throw off every single other kid on stage. We see Nepo babies less in musical theater because it takes a certain level of training to do what you need to do on stage to be successful. It's really hard to skirt by because there are certain vocal qualities that you have to meet. There are certain techniques that you have to use on stage that are pretty standard across the board, regardless of what show you're talking about or what vocal style you use. Popular music, it's something that you can maybe get away with because you have a unique sound. My problem with Kim Kardashian and the producers of the show is that they never gave that child a chance to get to that level. I know that there were dozens of kids that auditioned to perform that number and perform Simba. It's not necessarily that the right kid gets that role every single time, because there's always going to be some level of subjectivity, but there has to be a level of credibility to the audition process in musical theater. In order for a child to be ultimately successful in musical theater, they have to start training as early as possible on stage presence, dancing, singing, voice technique. And when you throw a child into an audition and they see that the kid that didn't even audition, that didn't even sing the number, got the role, it kills all incentive for them to ever try that process again. Those children leave believing that there's no point in trying anymore. And I have a huge problem with that. It's going to affect the kids that didn't get that part. It's also going to affect North West. She is going to grow up believing that she doesn't have to put in that level of work to be successful at musical theater. And I feel sorry for her. When she gets to be a few years older and she may decide she wants to pursue the stage on Broadway, she may not have the chops for it. And I don't think at that point she's going to get the parts that she wants. And she's going to be very confused about why that's not happening for her. Yes, there's stunt casting, but stunt casting usually happens with adults. And even a stunt cast happens when that person is already famous for performing and being on stage. Whether or not they're a singer or not, that kind of plays into it. And it's obvious that this child has never had any stage training at all. I'm pissed at her parents. I'm pissed at Kim Kardashian and everyone else involved in that camp for not even taking a second thought to think that maybe that child wanted to be in music lessons. Maybe she wanted a vocal coach. Maybe she wanted to be better than that performance. But they didn't take 1 second to think about the fact that that could even be a possibility. They have all the money in the world and they don't want to pay 1 red cent to hire somebody to see where their baby can go. They took the shortcut. That child will suffer in the end because of it. Is she going to suffer in life? Is she not going to be able to do whatever she wants to do because she has access to money and power? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that child has an elevated sense of what she's able to do on a Broadway stage, and it's different than acting in film. It's different than acting on TV if you're a Nepo baby. It's different than being an adult stunt casting. This kid has had every bad decision thrusted upon them to get to this point. But above all, I feel embarrassed for that casting director for that show, because as somebody who should prioritize a good performance and the experience of the rest of their cast and those children involved, they should be ashamed of themselves.